We all want to make a positive impact on the world, but what do we have to experience to get there? This is Stripped Bare FM, where our shared stories of strategy, raw talk, and real people uplift and inspire you. Now, welcome the host of Stripped Bare FM, Catherine Contos.
Hello everyone. What if you spent your life living your dream only to realize it was never your true purpose? Today on Stripped Bare FM, I have the pleasure of talking to Aaron Ellis, who was a recording artist for both Sony and Warner, is now a visionary, dad-preneur, singer, songwriter, author, and inspirational speaker from Los Angeles, California. I would like to take a moment to ask my listeners to subscribe to catherinecontos.com to get the latest details on my podcast, retreats, blogs, and more. Now back to our guest. Welcome, Aaron. Are you ready for some raw talk?
I'm ready, Catherine. Always.
Amazing, Aaron. Thank you so much for being here today. Aaron, from a young age, you were attracted to the journey of the music world. Please tell our listeners what your journey was like to become an artist for the top recording studios in the world.
Sure. As I was thinking about this, Catherine, thinking about the entire journey, it's interesting all the memories that came up. And one thing I want to preface, because I'm going to bring this up later, is that one of the most pivotal points in my life is I realized that who I was or who I am is not what I do. And that's been the most freeing thing in my life. Yet, let's go back to what I did and how I identified with it. So my mom will tell you that I was singing full songs before I was even a year old, before I could articulate a full sentence. I would stand in my crib and sing myself to sleep, apparently, she told me. I remember I had an older brother, about 4 years older than me, and I remember taking his stereo system, taking the speakers down, laying them on the floor, putting my pillow between it in the bedroom, and just listening to music. I would just want to listen to music all day long from as young as I can remember. And my mom was always like, you need to go outside and play. You need to do this. You need to do that. And all I wanted to do was listen to music. And I remember just how much it drew me in, how the unspoken was spoken through music. And I could feel the artistry in music, I guess you could say. And I wanted to express myself in similar ways. So I started playing piano at a very young age, started playing guitar as well. I really took the guitar and really loved the guitar. Always loved singing, but at first I didn't feel like I was the singer. So I would say that I became a professional musician if you want to say that the first time I got paid, right? Because I'm getting paid, I guess I'm a professional. I was 11 years old.
Wow.
And from then, it basically snowballed into me full on becoming professional at 15 years old, heading down to LA. I was born and raised in Bellevue, Washington, heading down to LA, much to my parents' I don't think there's a strong enough word to express how they felt about it, because I would skip school on a Thursday and I wouldn't come home till Sunday.
Oh, wow.
So it was pretty devastating to them, I guess you could say. Oddly enough, though, starting from a very young age and being around everything you can think of that goes with the music industry. Buffets of drugs and alcohol. I never got into it. I actually didn't have a drink until I was 23.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I loved what I was doing. I loved my life and I didn't want to numb it. Probably contributing factor to that too is I saw what it was doing to other people and how they would wake up and what they would wake up in. And, not to get too graphic on that, but the life of a musician, it's true. The movies depict it pretty darn well, or actually they probably don't depict it as real as it actually is.
Really?
So music was everything to me. I loved it. It was just naturally who I was. I didn't want to do anything else. I couldn't see myself doing anything else. You could say I ate, slept, and breathed music, and just massive creativity. I always had my guitar in my hand. I would fall asleep with my guitar in my hand, and it was basically who I was. I had this identity around music, that I was a musician. I was a guitar player. I was a singer. I was a rock star, and it was interesting how it started out me playing guitar in bands, and then I started singing when I was about 16, but I would sing backup vocals. But I really wanted to express my own music. And my initial record deals were with me being part of a band, right? So it wasn't necessarily my music, although I was contributing my own flavor to what I was playing. It didn't feel like me. And I'm somewhat summarizing this because I want to get to the very pivotal point. But in 2006, I signed to Warner Brothers as a solo artist. Mm-hmm. And this time it was going to be 100% my vision, exactly, my expression, my voice was going to come out here. And again, I had identified as a musician for years. I thought I'd be a musician for the rest of my life, and I'm still a musician, interestingly enough. But the reason I say it is that I thought I would be. It's because the way I express myself now musically is different. It's not necessarily that I any different in the sense that I'm still playing guitar, I'm still singing, but it's different in the way I show up and flow through it.
The way you describe it, it sounds like you were living your purpose, because when you're completely enthralled in something where you're living, breathing, sleeping music, it does sound like you were living something that you were so passionate about at the time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting to hear what happened to change that.
Well, what I learned is that my purpose is not what I do. It's how I show up and flow through what I do.
Mm-hmm.
It is me, the essence of what I'm doing. It's not the definition of or the actual what that I'm doing. So yes, I was expressing myself as a musician, expressing myself as a guitar player, expressing myself as a singer, right, and a songwriter. But I became those things in my mind. I got fixated on the mental picture of them and the intellectual aspects of those things. So, for example, a lot of times people get hung up on things in their life. They say they don't. I'm going to go kind of the negative side of this, on the other side of the coin here for a second. People get hung up thinking, well, I hate this or I don't like that. Yet the fact is, they don't hate or dislike anything. They hate or dislike their experience of it.
Mm.
But we've been so programmed to think that we are what we do. I mean, from a young age, what's your name? What do you do? It's
Right.
We identify with these intellectual aspects of ourselves, which are simply, when we're flowing from the inside out, an expression of our inner self. And I had become the outer expression of my inner self. And the reason I knew, and this really, really broke me open in a beautiful way, and it just popped into my head when people say, what do you do when all the pieces are scattered on the floor, you're broken and all over the floor? I'm like, you leave the pieces on the floor and you move on. They were meant to break. That's the freedom. And so in 2006, like I said, I signed to Warner Brothers, and we recorded all through the winter and all through the spring into the summer. I put together a band. So they wanted us to gel as a band live before we actually hit the States, okay? Because we hadn't really played together. One of my guitar players, we had done little duo sessions and whatnot in clubs and bars in LA, but we hadn't played together as a band except for the studio. So they were setting us up to go on a USO tour in August. And when it came time to, not to get too details, but when it came time for all the logistics and we dipped into my money was gone. And that was a very interesting thing to try to figure out what was going on. Now, previously, I was meeting every week with my business manager. We'd go out to dinner on a Wednesday. He would show me a QuickBooks report and whatnot. We'd see where the money was going and all that kind of stuff. And I had also built my own recording studio out of my advance. So instead of paying money and having the label pay money for me to go have hours in a studio, I built my own studio, which I was going to turn into a business while I was on the road and have other artists come through. So when it came time to work out all the logistics and the financials and stuff that I had to do on my own partially, there was no money there. And it was devastating. And I realized that the QuickBook reports had been fudged, and I was seeing fake reports. And I've never been good with money. I'll admit that out of the gate. Well, I manage, like when people say you don't manage money well, creative people don't manage money well. I can manage to spend a lot of money. Give me as much as you want. I spend better than anybody else. Right? So let's speed up. I ended up having to. It's interesting I use those words. I filed a lawsuit against my business manager. And okay, I didn't know I was going to share this part, but it keeps popping into my head. So as well as the 8 different things he had conspiracy to commit fraud. There was all these things he had done wrong. My studio equipment had been stolen by the engineer in him. My live equipment had been stolen. My guitars, my whole rig for my in-ear monitors and my wireless microphone, everything. He also had sexually harassed me and assaulted me multiple times.
Oh, sorry to hear that. That's horrible.
Now, when I say assaulted me, like on those Wednesday nights we would go to dinner, he would drink a lot. And as I was driving him home, because we lived similar in Manhattan Beach, similar area, he would reach over and I'd smack his hand away and twist his arm away and stuff. So that's what was basically what the attorneys called assault. And then the harassment was just, it was, not to go into detail, but it was hard to deal with. So I was not only in the process of, didn't know it at the time, process of dismantling my mental picture of who I was also having the physical aspect of who I was challenged. Okay. And I teach people a lot now that we're not our thoughts and we're not our body. And I was really learning that back then. I didn't realize it in the moment, like I said. So the lawsuit, two lawsuits, a criminal and a civil lawsuit, were launched in November. It was supposed to be a slam dunk because I had massive, massive evidence, like emails, like everything. It was just crazy. Crazy the amount of evidence I had. And we went in and my attorney purged himself. And just to speed up the process here and what I'm explaining, he purged himself 4 more times. Each time he was basically given 3 months. Well, he was fined and he was given 3 months to find a new attorney. So a lawsuit that started in November of 2006 didn't end until July 31st of 2008. And during that time, I was shelved by Warner Brothers. There was nothing I could do. I remember sitting with Tom Lee. He was the one. I'm not sure if he still owns 51% of Warner Brothers at the time, but we were out to dinner with my manager, not my business manager, and this guy named Tom Lee who owned Warner Brothers. And he said, Aaron, you would be better off if you were addicted to drugs because we would just feed you the drugs and get you on the road. And don't take that the wrong way, but that's the reality of the music industry, right?
Wow.
Because of what was going on, I was grounded. Every single time we would start planning, the talk shows would get rescheduled, the album release would get rescheduled, the tour would get pushed back, and then we'd go to court again, thing would be done, and he would purge himself. He'd get a $10,000 fine, and he'd get 3 months to find a new attorney. And I just had to sit there. And it was crazy. Now, in this process, when I said I had to, I don't know if you remember using that word, I had to file a lawsuit. I didn't want to. In the very beginning, I had this feeling, this inner voice saying, walk away, walk away. And not one time did I feel victimized by him. Not one time did I feel like I needed to get him back or revenge, yet everybody around me did. So the girl I was dating at the time was very aggressive. She was in the entertainment industry as well. And by the way, none of these things, nothing I'm saying is making anybody bad or wrong. Okay, I'm just giving context and giving details, yet there's no judgment in my mind of bad or wrong of any of these people. So my girlfriend at the time, she was riding my coattails for her industry, for acting, which again, I'm not making her wrong for that. I'm just giving you context. And she pushed for the lawsuit. My parents said, you can't let him get away with this. Everybody said, I mean, he embezzled $480,000 from me. So I didn't want to file the lawsuit out of the gate. And the entire time, all I felt was compassion for this man. I felt like I understood the fact that whatever he was dealing with in his own mind was far worse than what was actually happening, the expression of it that I was basically pulled into. And I knew back then that life was happening for me. It was not happening to me. I had that perspective, that inner perspective my entire life, basically. Yet again, I had identified with the intellectual aspect of being a musician, a songwriter, of getting a record deal, all this kind of stuff, as well as that was my pinnacle. I wanted my own music out, not playing somebody else's. I wanted a solo album out.
So let me go back to, you were how old now going through this lawsuit?
This was 2000. Well, it started late 2006, went to 2008. So how many years ago was that? 12 years ago it ended.
14.
And I'm 46 right now.
And your life just went into a halt right there just because, of all this happening. And you revealed something that you didn't think you would reveal. It was the sexual assault. And the sexual assault happened at what age?
Then it happened basically from the November before to the November that I filed the lawsuit.
How hard was it for you to go through that? And I know you said you had compassion for him and what he must be going through is a lot harder and maybe a nightmare for him rather than what you were going through. Do you feel like understanding that about somebody else makes you less to fight them? Or, does it give up your own rights? Did it give them the right to treat you the way they did?
I don't think it gave them the right to treat me the way they did. But one thing that I've always embraced, and even more so, like I seek it out in my life now, is personal responsibility.
Yes.
And I can look back to the night that it happened in November 16th of 2005. It was before I signed to Warner Brothers in January. I can look back to that day and know when I made a choice where I could have walked away.
Right.
And I had the feeling to walk away, but he was integral in getting me signed to Warner Brothers, and I stayed with him as my business manager. So the entire time I was thinking, if I could just get to this point, I'll fire him. If I could get to this point, I'll fire him.
A lot of people get stuck with that, right?
Yeah.
There's a
Oh,
certain
yeah.
power that they have, and you're like, okay, just a little more, and it ends up not being the best decision because things happen. No matter what, you can't stop those things from happening if you're involved with that person. So it's
Yep.
not you're not the first, you're not the last.
Yep. It's big in the entertainment industry. It just is. So like I said, I felt I had to. I never wanted to. I wanted to walk away. I just wanted to walk away the whole time. And it got super heavy after the turn of the year it was February-ish, I want to say. I was trying to remember exactly when it was, but February-ish. It was after that. So yeah, it was the second time we went to court and he got another 3-month continuance. I came home, bought a bottle of vodka, big bottle of pills, and decided I was not going to deal with it anymore. And as I look back at that, I didn't feel victimized by him. Maybe at the time I felt like, why won't anybody listen to me? I just want to walk away from this. But ultimately, years ago, I realized I was victimizing myself. Everybody was pushing me to do something that from the word go, and my inner voice was saying, don't do it. Walk away, walk away, walk away. So I was the only one victimizing myself when it comes down to it. But the beauty of that was,
I'm sorry, Aaron.
You don't have to be sorry. It's interesting to realize there's still emotion in there,
Yeah.
but it's gratitude this time. Because I woke up and went out on the beach. Well, I didn't wake up. I woke up in the hospital. So it was a couple days later, went out on the beach and wrote a song called I Send You Love. And it was all to him. It was basically, it was the premise of that song was that it doesn't matter what anybody does to us. Doesn't matter what they say to us, what they think with anything. We have the choice to send them love, period. And that's still one of my favorite songs, one of my producer's favorite songs that's on my new album coming out.
So you forgave him?
Yeah. Well, I didn't even, the funny thing is, to forgive one must have blamed. And I never really blamed him. I knew this was happening for me. And even in my mind where I was like, but this is my deal. This was my deal, my album. I still didn't go and blame him, which I really don't know how to intellectualize that. Because it wasn't a stance of becoming a doormat or anything like that. It's an empowering place that tells you that this is my life and I'm going to regain control. I'm not going to be a victim here. Not that I even had the thought of not being a victim. I just didn't feel like it.
Right, because we give power away when we start blaming, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and why give them that power? I get that.
So speeding up, the lawsuit ended on July 31st. I felt like, okay, it's over. I'm going to be able to have a new start. I decided I wasn't going to do music. Obviously, there was a lot of angst and energy there that I just felt like I couldn't do music anymore. It wasn't for me for whatever reason. And I was staying at my cabin in Washington State for the latter part of the lawsuit. And I was down in LA and I flew back up to Washington. And I got there late at night. And on the way back to my cabin, I totaled my truck, drove off a cliff 30 feet down. So it was a slick road. It had just rained. And I remember thinking like, are you kidding me?
Oh my God. Were you hurt?
Oh yeah. In shock though, I climbed up, apparently. I got my MacBook Pro, which by the way still worked, good old MacBook Pros. It was 30 feet from my truck apparently, right?
Right.
And my suitcase. And I climbed up. And the reason I say that is because I walked for a while and finally a police officer picks me up. They call my parents. My parents drive out they were probably an hour, 15 minutes away from where the cabin was. And they drive out, they meet us at the scene of the accident. And I'm standing there talking to my parents. Apparently my face was the size of a basketball. I don't fully remember. And the tow truck driver is like, what happened to the driver?
Oh.
And I turn, that was me. And he looks at me, he looks like, how did you get up? Because it was literally not a full on, straight down cliff, but very, very steep cliff. And my Jeep was it was going down to the ocean. My Jeep was wrapped around a tree.
Oh my God.
So I'm like, I don't know. I don't remember. All I know is I got up. So I climbed up, but I bring that part of the story up because it was like, to me, it was like, are you kidding me?
How many lives do you have, right? That's number 2.
Look, I thought this was over. So from then going forward, I didn't want to do music. Didn't feel good about it. My producer, though, was constantly, over the next few years, constantly reaching out, Aaron, we got to do some music. We got to record those songs. We got to, there's too much there. There's too much great music there. And he wanted me to record. And I went into the fitness industry and was consulting in gyms and whatnot and wasn't going to do music and working on myself, just working through processing everything that happened. There's more to it too, but I know we don't have a lot of time. So there's some other crazy factors that happened during that lawsuit that are just nuts. But I realized that being a musician or a songwriter or singer was an expression of who I am. It wasn't who I was, but I had to have it stripped from me, literally ripped from my hands, to realize that I'm not what I do. And I realized when I was diving into this deep, like, what do I love to do? I'm going to the deepest part of myself that I can find. And of course, still using words, even though it's beyond words. And when I teach people this, I teach them to find a word, like one word, even though it's beyond words, it's just a signpost. But what is one word that explains your purpose or explains, why you do what you do, why you express the way you express? And mine was inspiration. And as I dug deeper, I remember a mentor of mine talking to me. It's like, he would say, okay, Aaron, but what's in it for you? And I'm like, why do you keep telling me what's in it for me? I'm like, I like to inspire people. Yeah, but what's in it for you? And I didn't quite understand. I remember having this thought once arise in me that it was like, it will be about me and me alone and include everyone. And I remember writing that down going, what the heck does that mean? It'll be about me and me alone and include everyone. What the heck does that mean? So I meditated more, and each time I would bring back more. And I realized that it's like, I love to inspire others, yet with the spiritual law that it's in the giving we receive, not give and take, not give to get, I have to be inspiring others to be inspired myself. I have to step into that flow of inspiration to inspire myself. And the aha moment I had where I brought back that statement that it's going to be about me alone and include everyone, totally sounds like contradictory, was guess who else is included in everyone? Me. Right? And I'm like, oh, okay. Like it was just aha moment because it's so contradictory when you first look at it. And I realized, like I said, I love to be inspired. And in order to truly be inspired, I have to be in the flow of, and I'm using that word have to in a different way than most people use it. I have to be in the flow of inspiration, giving inspiration to where I am now receiving inspiration because it's in the giving we receive. And I realize now that it doesn't matter what I do. My outward expression doesn't matter. I can do anything and I'm inspiring people. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be music because music has come full circle and I have an album to release. It can be the books that I'm writing. It can be podcasts like now. It can be speaking on stage. It can even be on the phone during this crazy time of the pandemic where one of my companies, we pivoted to supplying PPE to governor's offices and to basically hospitals and whatnot and helping people laugh and lightening their day. So it's me. I am that inspiration. It's not the expression. It's me showing up and flowing through all my expressions. And understanding that has been the most freeing thing in my life because I can do anything now. It doesn't matter what I do. Well, what I do is not my purpose. How I'm showing up and flowing through what I do is my purpose.
Right. I have a few questions for you.
Sure.
So when you stopped with the music industry completely and you just walked away from it at that point, was it just because you were so traumatized by the whole experience that you could not look at it anymore? Or was it really, I'm just wondering if you walked away from a true passion because of the trauma and you have gradually it brought you back again,
Yeah.
in a different way with a different perspective now.
The word that comes to mind is angst. There was a lot of energy and frustration around that. There was to a degree blaming, like, oh, why did they want me to do that lawsuit? And I had to work through all those thoughts to find the personal responsibility in it, to find how life was happening for me and realize that, as I move forward in my life, now I unwrap life's gifts as they're happening. I literally can see the tapestry of my life weaving together. There's no more hindsight is 2020. There's no more thoughts in me of that sucked, but man, it was for my own good. Now it's like, this sucks and it's for my own good. Right. I'm living it now. And so I had to unravel a lot of that. I had to unravel a lot of the false identities, the identity with my thoughts is what I mean by false identities, realizing I'm not my thoughts and fixing myself, making things absolute just impedes the flow of my spirit flowing from the inside out of me. So I had to work through a lot of that stuff, including the feelings of I'll never be able to do music again. Allowing that energy to release, allowing myself to be in a state of acceptance allowed me to do music again.
Incredible. And that thing that you said, there's you and everybody. We do mirror ourselves in everybody that's around us and vice versa, right? So that's exactly what's happening when you are inspiring. You feel inspired in order to inspire others. I'm so glad you came to that pivotal point where you did start seeing the value and the gift that you being broken in pieces on the floor was actually what made you come alive in a different way, in a peaceful way.
And far more powerful.
Right.
Like beyond anything in my past. Like it's just been amazing.
So where are you now when you look back at all this? Where are you now in what you do and how you do it and how you inspire others?
You mean what am I doing? What's my outer expressions right now? Or what exactly are you asking?
Right. Yeah. What are your outer expressions? What is it that you're doing now to inspire other people? You know, you're a speaker, you're still writing music. You know, what is it that you're doing right now to spread your message?
I have an album that was going to release on May 9th. There was an initial show and tour set up, yet, as we know, COVID changed everything for live music. So I haven't released that album yet. I'm working on a book that goes along with the album as well as a couple other books. The album's called Awakening. And the songs actually go through my journey, go through, one called Right Here, Right Now about being present in the moment and accepting the joy and the strife. And one called Broken, which I wrote, during the lawsuit. And then I Send You Love is on there, as well as basically just, I made a post prior to this. I think the most important thing I'm doing right now is sticking true to the promise I made to myself, to the universe, to God, to my family, whatever you want to call it, that I would be a dad-preneur, that I would not do anything, or let's phrase it in a more powerful way, I would only do things that allowed me to remain a full-time dad. So I'm a full-time dad right now, and we have a brand new baby and a 5-year-old and a 13-year-old.
Nice.
I'm just working towards, more expressions and how to inspire. I did move in the last couple of years into helping people, mentoring people, coaching people in online business, which right now, a lot of people are wanting to do that because of everything that's happened with COVID and working from home and whatnot. So I moved into that, yet it was always as how can I help people wake up to this freedom that I have? So one of the reasons that moved me into that, which I'm still doing some of this work, is realizing that one of the biggest issues in our world is money. And people become fixated on money and they become obsessed with money. And it's become like a barrier to awakening. So that's why I created the program with 7-Day Weekend Mentors, that we filmed a TV show around it on building business online. But it was to awaken people. It was to transform them and help them realize their true purpose is not what they do. It's how they show up and flow through what they do.
It sounds like we're on the same path.
Yeah. Synchronistically, that's why we're talking, of course. Like attracts like.
I love what you do, Aaron. And you know what? The fact that you realized how the importance of being present as a father and the value that comes behind that, is, I wish more people would understand the value of family and the impact that you have on your children as a father. So congratulations on keeping it real and inspiring your children through everything that you do as well, because they're watching everything you do, right?
Yeah, they are. They're learning by what I do, not what I tell them.
Exactly.
And there needs to be integrity there. And
absolutely.
If not, they're going to learn something opposite than what I want them to learn.
Aaron, there's nothing more inspiring than watching people go against the grain to find their purpose, even if it may cost them the hard hits of judgment. You took on that challenge and you came out successful. So I congratulate you on that. I know my listeners will love to know even more about you and your strategies on how you made it through adversity to a purpose-driven life. So let's take a quick peek and fast track through some questions. Okay? Are you ready?
Absolutely.
Okay. So what's your definition of success? Which we probably already know the answer to that, but just redefine it quickly in a phrase.
My definition of success is just being present in the moment. That's success. The expressions, the results, those aren't success to me. Those are the results of success. And so for me, success is just being.
Perfect. What is the one thing you are most excited about today?
Well, my family and I are getting ready to move to the Gulf Coast of Florida, which we've never lived there before. But a couple of my businesses have really, really started to flourish, and my partners are out there. So we're pretty excited to head out that way on the 31st.
That's exciting. New place, new beginnings. Amazing. I love that. Share with us your one personal habit that make you successful and keep you inspired daily. My
one personal habit is I wake up every morning and throughout the day and I say, where am I not yet free? Bring it on. For areas where I'm not free. And when I say not free, I mean mental freedom. I mean, realizing where I'm still attached and identified with my thoughts. And so rather than waiting for growth to come to me, I seek it out and run at it head on.
Would you consider mental freedom peace or something else?
So I don't really think there is anything such as peace of mind. There's abeyance of thought, which means the mind goes quiet for a while, but mind is restlessness itself. So that peace is beyond the mind. It's that point where you can actually witness the mind, stand outside of your thoughts, realize you're not your thoughts, and be at complete peace. There's zero shift in how you are showing up and flowing and what you're experiencing based on circumstance. It's you bringing the experience rather than circumstance dictating it.
I love what you're saying there. I really do. Awesome. Okay, so what book would you recommend to our SB listeners and why?
What book would I recommend? That's a very interesting question.
Putting you on the spot.
Wow. You know what? I grabbed one of my old mentors prior to him dying was Wayne Dyer.
Yes.
I grabbed one of his books because everything we have is kind of in boxes, and I've been reading it on the treadmill. It's called Manifest Your Destiny, and it's amazing. It's a small book, yet it really helps people break down the differences of basically who we truly are, and we're not what we are. Meaning we're not our mind, we're not our body, we're not our thoughts, we're the expression. Those are tools for our soul in this lifetime. So that book, I would say that one. And for the only the reason that it's what I grabbed recently and it's really speaking to me again. It's ragged. It's almost worn out because I've probably written it 30 times or read it 30 times, sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, Manifest Your Destiny by Wayne Dyer.
His words have changed many, many lives, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Truly an inspiring man. So now for our soul shaker question. If you woke up tomorrow and you were stripped bare of everything in your business and only had shelter, food, and your family, what would be the first things you would do in the next 30 days with only $500 in the bank?
I would wake up excited to see where the journey was taking me, for one thing. And I wouldn't do anything different than I'm doing now. I would spend time in meditation. I would take care of myself. I would spend time with my family, and I would embrace the opportunities that come my way.
Perfect.
I'm guessing because if I lost everything, I wouldn't have lost, my skill sets and my talents. So I would just step into those like I am now.
Right. There's this saying, anybody who's made money knows how to make money. So even if they lose everything, right, they know how to make it again.
I've lost it all a few times. So that's very true.
Aaron, on a last and final note, what's the one takeaway message my listeners need to hear from you today?
That it's not what we do, it's how we show up and flow through what we do. And to think about that over and over again. Dive into that statement over and over and over again. And the freedom that comes out of that will astonish you.
Yeah, people should just repeat that until they actually get it. They could hear your words, but they're not getting it. So I challenge my listeners to really keep repeating that to themselves until they really understand what that means. So what's the best way to connect with you?
Easiest way is probably Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram. All of them are, Facebook.com/Aaron Ellis Official, LinkedIn.com/Aaron Ellis Official, Instagram.com/Aaron Ellis Official, or #Aaron Ellis Official.
Perfect. Thank you, Aaron. It was such a great moment in time right now to speak to you, and you brought on so much value, and for people to understand that even if you lose everything, you haven't lost everything. You're being reborn. Thank you so much for being here today and sharing your strip story with us.
Thank you for having me.
Do you have a confession and don't want anyone to know? Shh, it's okay. I won't tell. Go to catherinecontos.com under the podcast header and upload your recording anonymously. I will then broadcast your confession on Strip Bear FM and give you my advice. This could be very interesting. See you on the bear side.
That's all for this episode of Stripped Bear FM. Start living your best life. Head to catherinecontos.com for more information and resources, as well as ways to connect with Catherine directly. That's available exclusively on CatherineWithAC, KONTOS.com.